Thank God it's Friday. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. It's the last edition of the week, and we have lots in store for you. As always, my name is Benga Boroa. Welcome to the program. Not doing this alone. I never do it alone. I'm not a Liverpool fan, and I never walk alone. So I hand over to a legend, the leader of the gang, Joe Hansen.
I don't like that word when they say gang. Gang is like...
Yeah, it has a negative connotation.
Not really, but okay, kind of like reminds me.
Yeah.
There was this Patitos gang, that was by...
Patutomi.
Patutomi, yeah. Then Obiandi gang, you know, way back. Anyway.
And then a lot of our YouTube commenters, they always start with Olive and the gang. Okay. I don't know why they put Olive's name first. Anytime I see that thing, it gets me angry.
But have you asked who is the person that put it? No, I mean, exactly. So
yeah.
you know, it's okay, you should understand.
Yeah. Olive's fans. I want fans, man.
I want fans, man. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, welcome to Breakfast Central. Thank you so much for sticking with us. You've been with us from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and now it's Friday. So it's good that you're here because today we'll be looking at some of the biggest stories. A lot of controversy surrounding the Minister of Works, and he's come out eventually to clear the air. The families have put their pen to paper on the affidavit, and they've said, listen, this is what really transpired. The second physiotherapist in question has also made a statement as well. She also wrote her own affidavit as well and said this is what it is. But don't worry, we'll have that conversation in a bit. We also have major conversations to look into. If you are just joining us, this is Breakfast Central, your morning starter, okay? Not just that, let's mention that we're streaming live on YouTube, so you can go ahead and drop a comment or two. We're also streaming live on Facebook, not forgetting on socials, every platform that you would find us. We're not alone. We're also being joined by another guest who will be speaking to us. Definitely things to look into. But let's start off our wake-up conversation right away. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, has dismissed allegations linking him to the death of 26-year-old nurse Mary Habila, I beg your pardon, who died in one of his apartments, warning against politicizing the incident and insisting that anyone found spreading false information will face a legal action against cyberbullying. Umahi says that she died from complications related to excessive bleeding, which she reportedly disclosed to her boyfriend during a phone conversation shortly before she was found dead, describing the deceased as one of his aides and a trusted staff, whom he regarded as a daughter. He says that there was no foul play surrounding her death and noted that she had a history of medical challenges, had been receiving treatment at a Turkish hospital, and added that he has directed that the case be transferred to the force headquarters of the Nigerian police for a thorough investigation. Well, don't take our words for it. For those who have been clamoring to hear the full story, full proof, and also to hear from the minister, take a look at this.
The lady in question was like a daughter to me. She had stayed with me for 3 years. She was a staff of the Federal Medical University. She was a nurse and not a physiotherapist. And the family and my family are like one family. And she has her medical records in Turkish hospital, being paid by us. She spoke to her boyfriend at the hour of her death and complaining that she was bleeding from the nose. And the boyfriend said, no, you have to report. You see, it has stopped. So the boyfriend said, listen, I will not continue this conversation since you are bleeding. It will increase the bleeding. And she told the boyfriend, don't cut the call. The boyfriend cut the call. And 3 minutes later, the boyfriend called again. She was not responding. And even in the morning, she told the boyfriend she was going to bath because she locked her door, you know. So even in the morning, when they broke the door and discovered her dead, the tap was still running.
Okay, so the minister has finally cleared the air. And not just that, the father of the deceased who had decided not to speak to anyone, we do have his affidavit right there on social media. He did put it down, writing clearly what had transpired as a father, and then made some statements. And like I mentioned, the other lady, who happens to be the second physiotherapist, also did put out a statement. But this is what you have. He said that I am the opponent of this affidavit by virtue of which position the conversation with the facts herein deposed. The late Mary Habila was my daughter. Number 3, that the said Mary Habila, now deceased, died on the 27th day of June. He mentions number 4, he says that before her death, she was a staff of David Umahi Federal University of Medical Sciences and was seconded to the Federal Ministry of Works, Mabushi, Abuja, FCT, Office of the Honorable Minister of Works for about 3 years before her death. 5, that I am aware that my late daughter served as a personal nurse to the Honorable Minister of Works and Minister's immediate staff, with whom she resided at Minister's Guest House in Abuja and in Ebonyi State at Minister's Staff Quarters. 6, that following her death, the Honorable Minister of Works requested that an autopsy be conducted to ascertain the cause of her death. 7, that while I welcome steps being taken to unravel the cause of my daughter's death, my family and I will not accept any autopsy on my daughter's body. That's what he says at 7. 8, that it is my family's wish and humble appeal against medical and investigation protocols to leave her body and organs intact, hence this affidavit. Says 9, that I also wish not to proceed further with the investigation and further request to have my daughter's body released to me for burial. 10, that I will not honor subsequent invitation either to the police or court in respect of this case, as my family is not suspecting any foul play. That's what he says at 10. I do not know. I think there should be 11 or so, or if there's not, if I'm right. But pretty much that's what he did put out there in writing. Of course, it was signed. It went to the court and made everything clear. That's the reason why he will not. I'm trying to see if there was an extension of that statement also made. Okay, I found it. Let's also see ensuring the signatories. Of course, 11. That while reiterating on our request for the Nigerian police to release my daughter's corpse for burial, I wish to state that I was never induced, coerced, or influenced in any way with any or by anybody to make these depositions, as everything deposed here reflects the sincere wishes of my family and I. And finally, he says 12 and 13, that this affidavit is now needed for official and record purposes. 13, that I depose of the affidavit in good faith, believing its content is to be correct in accordance with the provisions of law. Of course, signed, sworn to the High Court Registry, Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, dated 13th day of July 2026, before me, of course, stamped. So, Nigerians, this is one of the affidavit released. We also have the one by the nurse. But let's bring in Olive on Olive Green. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for taking us through that story. Now, this is a story that has garnered reactions from Nigerians. Those who, the reaction has been mixed, as you will see shortly. The Minister of Works has been, many people have been waiting to hear him speak. So I would say, first of all, this addressing the media, addressing the world was very necessary, because it looked a little suspicious when nothing was said. And when there is silence, there's a lot of interpretation and misinterpretation that can accrue to certain things. So hearing him speak, I need to be very careful of what I say, because if you watch the full video where the minister spoke, he said at some point that this is politics taken too far, and mentioned that for those who are inferring what they shouldn't infer, that he's a man of full grace. So, we have to be extra careful in what we say. But the reason why Nigerians are taking this seriously is because, first of all, a life has been lost. And there are explanations that need to be given regarding what happened, how did we get here. Initially, we heard she was a physiotherapist, so now we're hearing she's a nurse. Okay. Now, the father's rejection of autopsy is is a big complication in this case. Because without a postmortem, saying that there's no foul play will remain just an assertion and not a concrete finding. So we cannot say for sure. But then again, he's well within his rights to accept or to reject a postmortem. Because you understand that what they do when they say an autopsy should be carried out, it's not just like putting the body through a test. They're literally opening up the body, and a number of families can't deal with the trauma that comes with their bodies being opened. That being said, the Minister of Works has not been one of the favorite ministers in most recent times, and I'm sure that, you know, there have been, why many people are raising dust is because of some of the previous issues he has, you know, had and certain allegations. I'm sure Joe is going to, you know, lead us through that shortly.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are previous issues. There were issues of engineers who had worked with him, and they actually had an untimely death in terms of while working during a line of duty. And recently, just a few months ago, the wives of these engineers staged a protest. Part of the request was that they should release the bodies of their husbands to them. Compensations were neither here nor there, that's what they said. While that was going on, if you recall, a few months ago, a lady came to the front, to the knowledge of every Nigerian, stating that she was being owed XYZ amount of money. She shared pictures of how she had worked for the former governor then and also minister, and she was asking that she be paid. She went on media rounds. She was eventually invited by the DSS, if you recall, and she kept on. Remember that infamous hands in the air, knuckles up, stating that she's going to fight for herself, for women. And later on, we found out that there was a game in between, but we're not going to go into that. So, too many stories around one person. And I must say this, I think what the minister has done is brave and the right thing to do. It would have been difficult if he did not even speak to the press or didn't even say anything but kept quiet. So sometimes silence is not always
golden.
It's not golden. Sometimes
Yes.
you have to come out and speak.
I actually think he came out a little too late. Maybe not too late, but it would have been great if he came out earlier before people started having assertions. And there have been a lot of pushback regarding the statement of the minister, especially the details of her speaking to her boyfriend. Many people have questioned that. Some of the reactions we've seen as well are people questioning, you know, if the affidavit was made without any form of coercion, regardless of what the affidavit says. But we cannot see anything. The honest truth is that ultimately it rests in the hands of the police to be able to clear the minister's name or let us know what exactly happened to Mary Habila. Gbenga, your thoughts?
I mean, it's quite sad and tragic that a life has been lost at the end of the day. And it's also a double tragedy that the father doesn't want an autopsy to be conducted to ascertain the cause of death, to, you know, draw some scientific conclusion and put all of this to an end so people can get what the real true picture is and what led to a loss of life. And I don't know if it's a coincidence of nature or it's just the wrong place at the wrong time. The Honorable Minister is not the only minister in Nigeria, but it seems to be associated with too many negative controversies around his name, and one is wondering what's really going on here. But we cannot speculate. We can only speak on the facts of the matter before us. And looking at what we've seen, both affidavits are deposited, the father and the friend, it raises a lot of questions, and also the minister's emphasis on the phone call that transpired between the boyfriend and Mary in the middle of the night, and nosebleed and all of that. I wonder how we got information on that. But where we are at this point is, like Olive said, we'll wait for the police to do their thorough investigations and let us know what the true situation of things are. It's one thing to say something, it's another thing for another party to say another thing. But it's their job to investigate and find out what the true situation is. But like I said, a life has been lost. It's a tragedy and very, very unfortunate that once again, the Honourable Minister's name is, I'm not saying he's guilty or anything, but it's surrounded with all of this sad incidents.
I think another legal question, which I'm not quite sure exactly, because the dead cannot retain consent. Unfortunately, she can't speak for herself to say what it was or what happened or whether or not she would like an autopsy. Can the state override the wishes of her father, especially when regarding
Public
the state
interest.
of the death, yes, it's a public interest case now. And the fact that many have termed her death as sudden and, you know, sort of suspicious because they saw her naked. So if it meets certain thresholds, can the state override her father's personal wishes? Because in this case, the death has warranted a lot of conversation. So I think that's something that we need to explore. If her father's wishes can override the state's, or the states can override her father's wishes regarding that.
I think in line with that, I mean, I just remembered there are cases where you have, I mean, take for instance people who will say they don't want to take infusion of blood and so on. So in such cases, you now have the states coming forth to say, listen, is it that we do or the person doesn't? But I think most often, well, like you said, we have to explore it. There's no certainty. Oftentimes, the wishes of the family member, especially the father, usually stands. I also want to mention that this is not the first time. For Nigerians who are craving, clamoring, and shouting and saying, no, an autopsy should be carried out, there's a twist to autopsy that we also need to highlight here, and I think we must make it clear to Nigerians for them to know. The twist about autopsy is that, one, most families do not agree to carry on autopsy because it has, one, there's this religious background to it. Two, there's this traditional belief to it. And three, there's this, let me start with the religious
They're
background.
also religious, yeah.
The religious background simply is,
God.
you know what, leave it to God. Whatever happened, God will act on behalf of the one who is gone. That the moment you tamper with the body, it's like you're trying to do God's work. I've been in situations like that where we had conversations with the individual and they said no. Secondly, there's this traditional thing, there's this same traditional belief that from where we come from, or certain things happen to certain persons, we do not go to try to, you know, touch the body and so on. By the way, for Nigerians who are also clamoring as well, when you talk about carrying on an autopsy, it has to do with dissecting the body.
Like
the body has to be, you know, and all that. So when you go through the process of all of that,
They see it as desecrating
exactly. So they
body.
say, so leave it. So in that case, if all of these things are presented, you can't blame the father. You can't say no, why, and so on. Maybe traditional is what he's holding on to, or the religious aspect is what he's holding on to. Whichever way, he has the right to make his own choice. And let's not forget, the minister already has said that an autopsy should be carried out. He called for an autopsy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the father has to make the final decision. But
so actually, I'm seeing some sources, and maybe we'll dig into that later, and there are arguments for and against that. There are arguments that the state, where, like I did mention earlier, where the death is a suspicious death, or where they have sufficient reason to believe that the death was, you know, had happened in suspicious circumstances, that the state must then act as counsel for the deceased and ensure that, regardless of what the family wants, that an autopsy is carried out. But let's share with you what Nigerians are saying on X, and then we'll head to YouTube. We're streaming live on YouTube, News Central TV Live. Drop your comments there. We'll take comments from YouTube right after we take from X. And the tweets on X are saying...
On X, it says, I have Chief...
Chidi
Odinkalu. It says, I have now been made aware of the circumstances in which the affidavit was procured. I will not say more at this time, except to ask, who can be this cruel? Is there something he knows that we don't know? Ooh, this is a long one. Ogbu Charles says, this is the affidavit of Mr. Okay, we're going to go back to that one. Anyway, let's move on. What? They made a man sign this, and he did, with your daughter involved? I don't blame the man for being weak. The level of intimidation and impunity in the country today is alarming. Only a revolution will save Nigeria at this point. This evil system must be dismantled. All right, we can see people reacting differently. This long one says, Tanko Habila Wisdom, the father of late Mary Habila, who died naked at the private village residence of Minister Dave Umahi in Ebonyi State, deposed to at the High Court in the state. Please pay particular attention to number 9 and number 10, where the man stated that I also wish not to proceed further with the investigation. And wait for it. that I will not honor subsequent invitation either to the police or court in respect of this case, as my family is not suspecting any foul play. Emphasis, mine. Now, let's see another thing he said. Pause and read that number 10 again, slowly. This time, and bear in mind that the Ebonyi State Ministry of Justice, where the incident took place, has investigated the matter and established that the girl's death is unnatural and deserving of thorough investigation. Now ask yourself,
what I was saying.
Why would the father of the same girl whose death has been established to be suspicious and worthy of further investigation travel all the way from Kaduna to Ebonyi to depose to an affidavit swearing that he does not want investigation on the same death and that he and his family are not suspecting any foul play? Ponder deeply on this, and you'll understand the very gigantic web of official cover-ups some powerful people are building on this case. And by the way, has the police deemed it necessary to issue at least one statement on this grave issue of public interest since nearly 3 weeks that a tragic incident took place? In a normal society, even this so-called father would be treated as either a suspect or having been compromised. Of what relevance is this so-called affidavit in a potential criminal case that ought to be between Dave Umahi and Nigerian state? I can bet that even if they later yield to public pressure and carry out an autopsy, the result will certainly experience an INEC-styled glitch.
Wow.
Wow. Nigerians are talking.
And again, it's not even the father's decision not to honor a summon by investigators.
So
that's exactly what I was highlighting.
That's another one again.
Okay. I think...
Let's
finish that one. Then I can...
You are just, up and down, sir. This case requires thorough investigation, sir, and you are trying to tell me that the parents have the right to stop the police from carrying out investigations?
Okay. Before I take comments on YouTube, I want to make reference to the Lagos State. Now, I don't know what is obtainable in Ebonyi State, but just to reference in Lagos State, the Corona System Law of Lagos State 2007/2015. Now, it said that Section 14, subsection 1, paragraph D states that a death must be reported and is subject to a postmortem examination wherever there is reasonable cause to believe the death was violent, unnatural, or suspicious. And this threshold is, of course, assessed by the reporting authority. Now, they said the coroner can act without police investigation or AG authorization first. That this framework requires neither the authorization of the AG or the state, nor the fiat of the chief judge, nor any preliminary investigation by the police to get the inquest process moving. So the question is, if we're judging by the provision in the Lagos laws, is this death violent? Is it unnatural? Is it suspicious? If it falls into any or all of the categories. And in this case, many have argued or many have started to point out the suspicious cases. And I think it will be in the minister's best interest if this autopsy is carried out. Because, I mean, if by the time this autopsy is carried out, it shows that there's no link to him, it then clears him of any suspicion whatsoever. But because this happened in his house, because she was naked, and many people don't seem to buy the explanation he gave, like Benga said, referencing the conversation between her and her boyfriend. Many are asking, was he there? How did he know? So there's just these lots of pockets of questions that could have easily been settled if an autopsy is carried out. But let's take comments quickly on YouTube. On YouTube, Moke Chukwuemeka says, a man of full grace indeed. God is only merciful. The father rejecting an autopsy is for himself and family. The state, although not to be trusted, has to take over the case. Sad one. Chuka Ochiama says, I don't believe Umahi nor the deceased father at all. If not, why would a parent willingly reject an autopsy for his child who died in such a questionable manner? Michael Zeus says, Mr. Habila isn't in a position to stop autopsy or corona. Umahi will explain entire how nurses or physiotherapists are now seconded to ministers. Were this to happen in PO House, DSS, police, army, etc., I mean, he's inferring that, you know, the whole force of the law will be there if it happened to Peter Obi. Michael Zeus says, okay, yeah, he said police, DSS, army would have swarmed his residence. Mary reportedly died bleeding, naked, and for days. Nothing was said until Sahara reporters exposed the whole story. Many unanswered questions waiting for investigation. Annie Chinedu Brown is asking, he says, so the minister was standing beside a dying woman to have eavesdropped on the conversation she had with the boyfriend. Autopsy is the only clue that will unravel the real cause of her death. Mr. Johnson says, I think dealing and going close to these people in power is not a good idea and will always end in sorrow. And had I known so many stories that I've heard surrounding these people. Femi Olagunju says, good day, New Central. We need to know the cause of her death. Was there no one at the residence to rescue her? An autopsy still needs to be done to know the root cause. Nathan Emmanuel says, if this has happened in the house of a normal Nigerian, will the police allow the owner of the house to move freely pending the outcome of the investigation? I think I can take 2 more comments before we move. Chooks Danny says, if autopsy is not done in this case, Umahi's will forever be linked to and dragged for it. He should persuade the family of this lady to do it. Otherwise, he will sue people tire. And there's a lady, yes, Vicky Zone says, this is no truth from anyone serving in this APC. There is no truth from anyone serving in this APC. Number 9 proves a foul play. Nigerians are not fools. Keep the comments coming. We will bring more conversations regarding this, and we'll delve into this, bringing experts to analyze, first of all, if the will of the father can supersede the position of the state, if the state can overtake the consent of her family. We'll be looking into that in a moment. We'll go on a very quick break. We'll return and continue conversations this morning on Breakfast Central. The death of Mary Habila has sparked widespread public attention and renewed calls for accountability and reignited conversations about high-profile cases are handled in the age of social media. As investigations continue, the focus remains on establishing the facts while balancing public interest with the need to avoid speculation or misinformation. Minister of Works David Umahi has now responded publicly to the controversy, describing the late Mary Habila as like a daughter, quote unquote, to him and expressing sadness over her death. He said Mary had informed her boyfriend that she was experiencing bleeding about an hour before she died and urged the public not to draw conclusions before investigators complete their work. Umahi also criticized what he described as attempts to exploit the tragedy for social media engagements, even as many Nigerians continue to demand a thorough, transparent investigation into the circumstances surrounding her death. Now, to discuss the legal, ethical, and public accountability issues raised by this case, we're joined by legal practitioner Jide Ologun. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Good morning.
Good morning. I know we have the video of David Umahi responding to the allegations and the statements. Many had been waiting for him to speak up about it. I'd like us to take a look at the video, and then we'll get into the conversation proper to look at the legal, the ethical, and maybe moral expectation of how this case should be handled.
The lady in question was like a daughter to me. She had stayed with me for 3 years. She was a staff of the Federal Medical University. She was a nurse and not a physiotherapist. And the family and my family are like one family. And she has her medical records in Turkish hospital, being paid by us. And she spoke to her boyfriend at the hour of her death and complaining that she was bleeding from the nose. And the boyfriend said, no, you have to report. You say it has stopped. So the boyfriend said, listen, I will not continue this conversation since you are bleeding. It will increase the bleeding. And she told the boyfriend, don't cut the call. The boyfriend cut the call. And 3 minutes later, the boyfriend called again. She was not responding. And even in the morning, she told the boyfriend she was going to bath because she locked her door, you know. So even in the morning, when they broke the door and discovered her dead, the tap was still running.
Okay, so that's the video of the minister there speaking during a press conference, or press briefing, rather. I think our first question would be, does the state have the power to actually override the parents' wishes, their wishes that no autopsy should be carried out? Can the state say, no, we need to carry out an autopsy to identify what really went wrong?
And part 2 is, from what we've heard so far, the facts on the ground and the story we've heard, is there any basis for further investigation, or we should just take things for the face value that there was no foul play and let everybody go on with their lives?
Thank you for the brilliant questions. Let me start by expressing my condolence to the Habila's family. It's a huge loss, and God will grant them the grace to bear the grief. To start with, the government has the power and prerogative to carry out an autopsy and investigate what exactly led to the death of Mary and the circumstances around it. Because when you talk of an incident like this, it is within the crime arena, and crime is an offense against the state. But having said that, also, the family has the right to say, no, we are not interested in any autopsy. But what I see here is that Honorable Dave Umahi really wants to show the world that this is not a death that is mysterious, even though some are parading it as mysterious. So the state can prevail that despite the position of the family members, that the autopsy be done. But I read that a group in Kaduna, where she's from, is even appealing to the family members and traditional stakeholders there that allow the government to carry out this autopsy. But by and large, there had been several stories around this death. And I want to advise on the public relations angle that perhaps the public relations team would have concretized what to present to the world. Because I read that the physiotherapist body is saying Mary's name is not on their list, you know, she's from here, from there. So all those things must be cleaned up. But by and large, the family is saying, just release her body to us, let's bury her and move on.
Okay, so you've mentioned that, just to clarify, you've mentioned that the state has a right and that, you know, they have the right, the prerogative to carry out an autopsy. The family also has a right. But in this kind of scenario, whose rights will take center stage?
Definitely the right of the state. And that is if the state decides to proceed. But in a high-profile matter like this, you know, a lot of influence will be going on giving direction to the case. And permit me to use the case of the Ekurimadus in the UK, because when things like this happen, you hear different stories. But what the UK government decided to do, to tie it to your first question, is to proceed. Now let's do our investigations independently of whatever narratives were being thrown into the air. And you saw the direction that matter went. But the UK jurisdiction is different from our own. There had been circumstances in the past in the country where such deaths were never really given the scrutiny deserved. As we speak right now, Nigerians are still asking who killed Dele Giwa, who killed, Bola Ige. Can you imagine?
The Justice Minister.
Exactly. A Federal Attorney General. So those are the issues. But again, it's good to note that it's trending now because of the personality of Honorable Dave Umahi. And some have dug up some issues also that, so these people enjoy so much medical attention and things like that, you know. And I would just advise that as much as possible, perhaps this should be a case that should be thoroughly investigated so that the facts can come to the people so that we know exactly what has happened, whether to vindicate the honorable minister in whose custody she passed on, or to just, pin it to natural death. But you see, the death does not appear natural. And I'm speaking as a chief superintendent of police now, and that is where the government has the responsibility to step in so that those facts can be dug up. But again,
and that brings me to my question, following you mentioning investigation and finding the facts of the matter. The fact that one of the people in the center of this controversy is a politically exposed person and a senior federal minister. Will that be a cog in the wheels of the police in investigating this matter? Or they don't respect personalities and it's a non-issue?
That is if it is allowed. Recall that in the case of...
So what would be a typical investigation like?
A typical investigation, for instance, in another crime, maybe for Honorable Dave Umahi to even step aside for now so that his influence is a bit diminished on the matter and allow an independent and forensic investigation into the death. You see, but again, you know, we have a similar matter, though not, of course, even with death coloration, the case of Prince Adeyemi and the allegations against Mary Habila,
yes,
and the fact that the person who allegedly obtained the appointment letter for Prince Adeyemi from the presidency died mysteriously in an hotel in the FCT. So those are issues. So in our environment, do we carry out a thorough investigation? But that is what is required because people need to know. We need to know. Okay. So, and I've compared the case of the UK, yeah. Even in the case of the former governor of Delta State, Ibori has never been arraigned for the kind of crime he was jailed for in the UK for 13 years. So, tales of two communities.
Okay. In this case now, we have some, I like to call them actors in this case. We have the father, who definitely has played a major role by putting out that affidavit, saying clearly that he doesn't want anything regarding autopsy. That's one. And he also mentioned that he would not want to appear before the police. Does he have such powers to do so, to say so?
That this is the last time is...
He doesn't want to discuss this.
He does.
Invite him and so
he
on.
Does. And
so can the court summon him to appear?
But he has told them he's not interested. Even in criminal matters, the complainants can go back to the police and say, I'm not interested in this matter anymore. Like I said
but when
earlier,
there's a loss of a life?
You see, you know, there was a time when this banditry and terrorism was not even as bad as it is right now, that a foreign media organization stated that Nigerians have lost their sense of shock. So if you isolate the death aspect, it's almost like a daily news to read about death. It's now the circumstances around it and the fact that it happened in the residence of a politically exposed personality, which, of course, will throw up demands from opposition and from different stakeholders, angles that investigate this. And the big question now is to what extent will that investigation be carried out? Because there are several questions to ask. We've read that, oh, she was seconded from the Dave Umahi University as a physiotherapist with another Mary who is claimed to be at large. She had a discussion with the boyfriend. She claimed she was bleeding. Another report, you know, different reports. So you are to sift through these reports. Just like you recall the NSAS Lekki toll gate incidents, that there were releases of...
The white paper.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, a mass burial followed some months later, and some people with critical investigative minds were asking, so if this was denied, where did you get the corpse for mass burial? So by and large, we may not rule out the influence of power brokers. But the father is saying, I've lost a daughter, please allow her to rest. But interestingly, this is a high-profile case that netizens will not allow to rest. But again, another matter may happen because, like I mentioned earlier, the case of Prince Adeyemi is already dwindling and going under the carpet.
No, we will not allow that.
Well, it was in a private jet yesterday,
I just wanted to,
transported from Ibadan to
and he was
Abuja.
walking scandalously yesterday. He was swinging and he was laughing. And the DSS
Was in very high spirits.
Yes, even the DSS operators behind him were also laughing.
You people
wasn't
want to be
coughed.
pressed. I don't understand.
It was funny. But I want to ask this before.
That's why we're called the press, please. You have to press on issues.
Wow.
An issue was raised. The young lady who died, her father resides in Kaduna. He came all the way to Ebonyi to make a statement in court. So everyone is asking, why did you have to leave Kaduna and come to the High Court in Abakaliki? Why didn't you just do that in Ebonyi? So people are saying it looks more like, I just want to ask you from a lawyer's perspective, does it smell like a foul play or something?
Or coercion.
Is he was he coerced to come down and then just make this statement? Because if he came to see the remains of his daughter, it's one thing to say, okay, let's go back home and start making burial arrangements. Then I can now go to the court there. But he came to see the remains in court and immediately went and made,
The affidavit.
You talk of jurisdiction. That is where it happened. So
Okay.
It was necessary for him to have done that. And again, the police, we have to compile their report, because that is also the essence of investigation, that at the end of the day, this is where we are. And let me give us a practical example. Investigation will either lead you to whether there should be arraignment or prosecution or not. And in the criminal justice ecosystem, we say there are three important levels of intervention. You talk about thorough investigation, you talk about diligent prosecution before a committed judiciary. But if you don't have reason to prosecute, don't go on prosecution. And let me also say that investigation is not conviction.
Absolutely.
For instance, in Nigeria in 1978, $2.8 billion disappeared from the NNPC account, Midland Bank.
Yeah, you don't take.
And a panel was set up to investigate. And they investigated and said nothing happened. And at that point in time, Dr. Olusola Saraki was the Senate president. They were trying to investigate into it and things like that. But you know what happened? December 1983,
The military took over
from Alhaji Shehu Shagari, who was the president. And it was Buhari that now became the head of state. And it was that Buhari under General Obasanjo as the military head of state that was heading NNPC. You see, so those are, and let me bring us to the contemporary time. Senator Oshiomhole cried out that NNPC should account for 210 trillion naira.
Today.
You see, and the other senators said no, that they are not interested. So
he said the method of the invitation was not palatable, because he said they should bring him in dead or alive.
In other words,
you see about the method or the impact.
Exactly.
Because I read further that some money were being recovered from some staff of NNPC. So we need to really get serious. But let me say this. Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended states clearly that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office. And that is why matters should be thoroughly investigated by the government, irrespective of who is involved. But in this case, so far so good. I mean, for Honorable Dave Umahi to say, let's have an autopsy, I think that moves us in a direction that it may not be a scary thing, because for those who are scared, they say, no, you know. And
I would like our producers to please play a second clip of Honorable Dave Umahi's press conference. There's a question I want to ask Barrister Ologun in the studio.
It was like a daughter to me. She had stayed with me for 3 years. She was a staff of the Federal Medical University. She was a nurse and not a physiotherapist. And the family and my family are like one family. And she has her medical records in Turkish hospital, being paid by us. And she spoke to her boyfriend at the hour of her death and complaining that she was bleeding from the nose. And the boyfriend said, no, you have to report. You say it has stopped. So the boyfriend said, listen, I will not continue this conversation since you are bleeding. It will increase the bleeding. And she told the boyfriend, don't cut the call. The boyfriend cut the call. And 3 minutes later, the boyfriend called again. She was not responding. And even in the morning, she told the boyfriend she was going to bath because she locked her door, you know. So even in the morning, when they broke the door and discovered her dead, the tap was still running, you know. So, but what baffles me, you know, in this country is that everything becomes an opportunity. Now, there is a guest house where her and the second medical person stay. And that is very far from where I stay. And so it means that, God forbid, somebody dies in Ministry of Works, the minister must be accountable to that. Is that what they are saying? Is that they're saying that somebody cannot die? Is that, have they checked the medical records of the lady? Do they know, you know, that this lady was like a daughter to me? And but you know, everything goes into politics. But what I say to people, be careful. Life is spiritual. When you want to use the unfortunate death of a young girl to play politics, if we have hands in the killings, it will follow us in our family. But if we don't have hands and you are jumping into it, behold, this is David. I'm a man of full grace. You don't, you know, tackle me anyhow and you go out of it. So be careful when you want to use the death of that young lady. You know, one of my best workers, a nurse, a staff of the federal. Somebody said, oh, they were transported, you know. The second girl is from Benue State, you know, and that girl has worked with me as a governor before she was employed. And so when people darken the so why I'm not talking to the president means nothing, but very painful to me that that girl passed on, you know. It's very difficult to replace her, you know. And, you know, the parents will be begging them, allow autopsy to happen. They say it's against their culture. But the question is that if she were a Muslim, will you be insisting that autopsy will happen? You know. But we insisted through our lawyer that autopsy should happen. And we are begging the parents to allow autopsy to happen. And I say, no, it's against their culture. And so we have a stalemate, you know. And only God will resolve it because we have directed that the corpse cannot be removed until they have done autopsy. But it's very strange why an unfortunate thing that happened, you know, is being made this. Is it that we killed a woman that was giving me injection, you know, that, you know, was administering drug to us, that live in our guest house, even in my residence in Asokoro? So what sort of rubbish is that, you know? So, but people should be careful because when I kneel down to pray, I say when you push yourself into this, I say, God, may the death of the girl be better than their own death. That's my prayer for everybody that is using it to play politics. But if we have hands, let it also follow us. Because it can be very annoying when people use, you know, people's, you know, unfortunate incidents and are playing politics. Some people are calling me, we are this organization, we want to do protests, we want you to see us. You know, what is it? This is David. You know, I don't fear battle, you know, and I've never lost any, you know. But life is spiritual. We need to be very, very careful.
Okay, so there you have it. The Honourable Minister of Works, Honourable Dave Umahi, he said quite a lot of things there, and the two questions that come to mind is, in that short clip, he mentioned the boyfriend's name not less than 7 times.
Well, not his name, his title.
His title,
boyfriend.
yes, boyfriend, thank you. The boyfriend, he referred to the boyfriend at least 7 times. Does that make the boyfriend a person of interest? And he also talked about grace and spiritualism. Does the Nigerian judiciary respect grace and spiritualism?
Thank you very much. You know, as per investigation, that boyfriend is a critical subject.
He's a person of particular interest.
Exactly. You know, he should have some things to say. And those details are clear enough for him to come and then you need to confirm the bleeding what led to all this. And that is what investigation should do. And on the scale of grace, I just want to humbly advise that the Honorable Minister should allow his public relations aide to groom him, because for me, I think he has spoken too much in the clip played to us. Because naturally, people want to pick words from what you are saying. And that's why some people come eventually and say, I have been quoted out of context. And on the issue of grace, it's again about the system we have. Back to the case of the Ekweremadu, at a point in time when that prosecution was coasting towards conviction, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, a man of international influence, wrote to the UK government that, pardon, pleading for leniency. And the UK said, no, our system implements the laws we have. We are against modern slavery and organ harvesting. All right? And they proceeded. Even when the Ekweremadus were convicted and held in custody, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that was towards the tail end of Nnamdi Kanu's case too, sent a delegate led by the Attorney General of the Federation.
And even the Foreign Minister was in
so the UK pleading for Ekweremadu to be returned to Nigeria to complete his jail time. And the UK government said, no, we cannot trust you with justice. So we should look at all this and see how transparent we want to be. So by and large, I know that we go beyond where we are right now, if I understand Nigeria very well. Perhaps next week we are discussing a different issue entirely. So that moves. Because look at the case of Beta Edu when it blew open also. Names were mentioned. People expected investigation, but at the end of the day, she was only asked to step aside.
Bajagate as well.
Exactly. And you even look at the case of Magu. Magu was eased out of office on allegations of mismanagement and things, but was never arraigned in any court. Look at the case of Malami, the former Attorney General of the Federation. About 213 billion naira worth of properties that has been forfeited to the federal government. Well, that's what we call prima facie case in law. It speaks for itself. But is he in the long arms of the law, even short arms of the law? So these are issues that we must consider. And I'm talking right now about our system of justice. It should not be operated in a way that citizens will begin to suspect that, okay, maybe justice is for a particular set of citizens, while judgment is for others. It must, what Lord Heward said is that justice must not only be done, but clearly seems to have been done.
Well, at the end of the day, we hope that further investigation, we certainly believe that it's even in the best interest of the Minister of Works that investigation is carried out to ascertain his innocence. Like he's come out to say that he has nothing to do with the case. Beyond the spirituality, I really would hope that we would see a thorough investigation being carried out so that it can exonerate him or let people know exactly what happened to Mary Habila, because of course her life matters. And the truth also matters. Thank you very much for your time with us.
Thank you.
Welcome. It's my pleasure.
All right, let's share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. We'll be assessing the hidden trauma of the kidnapped survivors. And then we'll be sharing with you that the U.S. House votes to halt all aid to Nigeria over the attacks on Christians. We'll be speaking on that in depth. And then UNICEF applauds federal government over release of Oyo school children. That's the Orire abduction. All this comes up next. Please stay with us. The release of kidnapped victims is often greeted with relief and celebration, marking the end of a harrowing ordeal for victims and their families. But while the physical rescue may make headlines, the emotional and the psychological journey that follows often receives far less attention. The recent release of the abducted victims in Oyo State has once again highlighted the growing challenge of kidnapping in Nigeria. Yet, Beyond the relief of returning home lies another battle, one that is largely invisible. Survivors may grapple with anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, fear, sleep disturbances, feelings of guilt, and difficulties trusting others. Families, too, can experience emotional strain as they help loved ones readjust to everyday life. Now, this morning, we'll be shifting the focus from the rescue itself to the healing process, asking what happens after captivity, what trauma really looks like, and how Nigeria can better support survivors on their journey toward recovery and resilience with our guest psychiatrist and convener of the Mental Health Conference, popularly known as the Celebrity Shrink, Dr. Maimuna Kadri, a.k.a. Dr. May. Good morning, Dr. May. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The amazing humans of News Central. I'm happy to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Dr. May, unfortunately, kidnapping seems to be the order of the day. Everybody knows someone that has been kidnapped at some point. And we cannot talk about the rescue, the paying of ransom, without then talking about the post-traumatic stress disorder that being in captivity causes to people. So when someone survives a kidnapping ordeal, what is it like? What is the PTSD like? What are some of the immediate psychological effects that they are most likely to experience?
Thank you so much. As a Nigerian and as a psychiatrist, I want to celebrate the safe return of the principal, the teachers, the children. Every rescued life is a victory. But the day they were rescued marked the end of captivity, not necessarily the end of trauma. Now we know the cameras have left them, they have come home, they went through medicals, some have been released, some are still back in the hospital. But survivors, that's not the end of their story, it's just the first page of a much longer one. Because just when being released is not the same as recovery. So like you said, what are those immediate psychological effects that they may experience? Let's start with the children. Children don't process trauma like adults. No. Many people will expect children to bounce back immediately, but the truth is that children often communicate trauma through behavior rather than their words. So I would encourage parents, guardians, loved ones, people around them, they should look out for at least the first few hours and days after their release, symptoms like bedriding, especially if the child has already stopped bedriding before the child was kidnapped. Clinginess, not wanting to leave their loved ones, their parents and all that. Some may start expressing aggression, withdrawal, nightmares, refusing to go to school. Let's not forget it was in school environment, a lot of them were kidnapped. Poor concentration, excessive crying, fear of separation, hypervigilance, difficulty in sleeping, jumpiness, especially if they hear loud noises, and sometimes even a strange emotional flatness that looks like coping well. But it is often dissociation. So it's important that we understand that children will go through things like this because their nervous system is still in survival mode. And the real reaction comes later. Often safety finally allows it to settle in. But these children don't need punishment, they need understanding because, like I said, behavior is often the language of emotional pain. Then, of course, the younger ones, like the teenagers, we need to understand that trauma may not show up as words at all in them. It may show as regression, it may show as loss of speech milestones, refusal to be separated from their parents too, refusal to go to school. Then the adults, the thing about adults is that it's very easy to say, oh, you're back home. Oh, thank God you are home. And then they love bomb them. They want to look at them as object of safety and all that. And they don't want them to express themselves. Rather than asking them the questions of what happened while you were there, ask, create a safe space for them. Listen to them without judgment, without criticism. Most importantly, I need to put this in, without being apostolic. It's not that they were less prayerful that they were kidnapped, but they are going to go through a whole roller coaster of emotions. Because like you said, we are looking at preventing them from having post-traumatic stress disorder, clinical depression, anxiety disorder. So these are the immediate psychological effects we should look out for them because there are long-term side effects that we should also look at. And those long-term side effects, apart from PTSD, anxiety, depression, we do not even know those that are already going through, challenges, have what we call childhood experience, adverse childhood experiences that may predispose them to even bigger issues like psychotic disorders and all that.
That's a lot said, and truly we can only wonder if this was recognizable by the medical team that welcomed them. I'm sure they would have drawn a list of do's and don'ts to enable these rescued survivors go through them. But my question would be on, I know I hammered strongly, especially when we saw the teacher in question, how she was bombarded by politicians. She was given a car. She was told to raise the car key up with the papers and so on and so forth. Can you speak to the politicians who, found it very important to use that time and that moment to prove a point that, listen, we care for you? Can you really term that to be caring for someone who has just come out of such a deal and telling the person to raise a car key up with the papers?
Hello? Okay.
Can you hear me?
So I can hear you now very well. Yeah. So the thing is that, we are going to go through this. Cameras have gone. Raising car keys, even buying a house. Trauma doesn't expire when the danger does. That's just the truth. But, they need support. Without support, it just changes shape into nightmares. These teachers, some of them, I will tell you, they may not want to go back to school again. They may not want to even teach again. They may not even want to hear anything regarding school. Yes, it's good we give them all this, car, relocation and all these other things we are giving. But the thing is that is not the way to bring them back. To reintegrate them back into the society. Coming home is its own, psychological event. Families often we have to experience relief, celebrate. I know people are bombarded. Why did the husband celebrate and all that? Because some people died in this whole process, right? Survivors often feel disoriented. They feel guilty for some of the things that happened. They are unable to explain what they've been through to people and all that. So we should not make them start feeling, second doubting themselves. What happened to you? And talk about it more. No, healing doesn't happen on our timeline as observers. I need to emphasize that. Healing doesn't happen on our timeline as observers. It happens on the survivor's timeline. So our job is to make room for them and for that, and not to rush them. So yes, while we are happy, families are happy, they need to prioritize, routine, patience, safety cues over pressure, pressing them for details. They don't need to force survivors to talk about it. And because we are talking about this in the media now, I'm begging everybody, for media, we have to avoid replaying captivity footage or the victim of the killed teachers or repeating exposure, because it will re-traumatize some of these people. They don't just put children, for the children, I think that is completely not okay. Let's blur out. Let's not, put their faces out there. People were saying, oh, look at this child was even chewing gum. Some of them, that is the way they were expressing their trauma. We have what we call adverse childhood experiences. Some in the next 5-10 years, nothing will happen to them. 15-20 years, they will break down. They'll be wondering what happened. So protecting their anonymity is very important. Every time we replay the worst moment of someone's life for views, we ask them to survive it all over again. So yes, it's good we give them this, but they need a lot of safety, psychological safety, where they can heal properly without bombarding them with all the say this, speak about this, what happened, where we're there. No, it's very easy to say, I'm here, I'm listening. What you need for me to support you, rather than all the razzmatazz and putting our face out there. Those cameras will go away the next 1 or 2 weeks. Nigeria, every day is like a Netflix documentary. One story will come out again and again, but what happens to them when the cameras are not there? And we need to really put that into our consciousness and help them to heal. So for their families, I really want them to understand this.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Now, what sort of psychosocial care or medical care should be provided in the first 48 hours when these survivors released from their captives? Because oftentimes, like my colleague emphasized, they're speaking to members of the press. Their hospital is almost like a mecca and beehive of activities. And I don't think that's what they need in those very precious moments following their release. So please speak to us on the sort of care available and what sort of environment should they be in the first few days after release from captivity.
Very important question. You know, when they were released and, you know, it came out, the video and everything, when that video came out, you know, it should actually come with an ambulance. It should come with the mental health first aid. It should come with that psychological first aid. You know, because the truth is that this should run parallel to the physical medical checks that they're experiencing, not afterwards. Because mental health screening shouldn't be an aftermath to the 48 hours medical observation period. It should be screen them for anxiety, screen them for depression, screen them for stress, just whatever it is, because everybody is, yes, made wonderful and fearfully in the image of God, but their healing is going to be individualized. Their pathway to recovery is going to be different. You don't know those that are already having what we call, you know, predisposing factors, people that came from damaged homes, dysfunctional family setting, divorce home, genetic predisposition of mental illnesses, you know, violence in the home, separation from father and mother. There are some people that are already dealing with that. So when you screen that, you will then be able to, you know, put them in different categories: mild, moderate, severe, or green, amber, red. Let us use the traffic light, right? So that people can get the help they need separately. Collectively, what we will have done, the first thing, when everything is done and they take it to the hospital, they should have what we call a group therapy. When we do group therapy, we call it psychological debriefing. It helps everyone to understand everybody's point of where their pain came from. The principal may think that this person didn't experience this, or she can boldly say, oh, there was nothing like this. But everybody speaking from their pain point, you will then understand what really truly happened, because you are blinded to know everything that happened to each and everyone differently. If some of them went through any molestation or whatever, she will not know. And some of them may start having relationship issues. If they are married, they may never want their spouses to touch them or to talk to them or to be intimate with them. So that, of course, group session, it helps them to understand that they are not alone. It helps them to understand that this journey, they are on a healing journey, but it's individualized. And then they can then have individual therapy one-on-one as the need arises, as individualized as possible. Some may need one, some may need twice, some may need as many sessions as possible. So this is what they should do, because care must be phased, and trauma-informed care must be put in such a way that safety first, trust built, processing much later, and it should never be forced. So it should come concurrently as they are dealing and screening them for their physical medical checks.
Okay, I'd like us to also talk about the role that the government has to play and how we can incorporate psychosocial support for survivors of kidnappings. How are we faring so far? Because I still have conversations with certain people who still do not believe in therapy in 2026. So as a nation, from your experience so far, how would you say we're rating in terms of our general receptiveness towards mental health support? And how can the government key into leveraging psychosocial support for these survivors?
Yes, we have the mental health bill that we passed it to an act, and I think I came and spoke about it here on News Central. Yes, brilliant, bravo, but we are in 2026. It hasn't been implemented. Things haven't been put in place the way they're supposed to, because aside from that act being done, all the 36 states, including FCT, is supposed to have their state level. It should be, you know, cascaded down to the primary health care, not just a university, teaching hospital, or secondary, general hospitals, or federal medical centers. The government, the truth is that there's still a high level of stigma and discrimination attached to mental health. People living with mental illnesses, including their families. You are not far from what you, the truth is not far from what you just said. In 2026, people still believe that those that need therapy are those on the street. No. Yes, Nollywood has sold us this life that you have to be on the street, picking trash, eating, tearing your clothes. That is not mental illness. It's 1% of people that have mental illnesses that are on the street. 99% is you and I, fully dressed, looking radiant, don't know what's taking antidepressant or anxiety medication this morning. So government needs to make sure that this our act, that mental health law now exists, cascade them to the primary health care center, put them in places, put a policy that workplace should have mental health incorporated in them. Schools should have mental health incorporated in, so that when this happens, we talk about mental health the way we talk about malaria, the way we talk about non-other communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, cancer. If it was cancer now, we would have started doing GoFundMe. But now when it comes to things like this, they say, oh, give them a house, give them a car, they're back home, feed them where they are looking malnourished. But who is looking into their psyche? In the mind of a survivor that has been with kidnappers for 56 days, their lives may never be the same again. So government should please, this law that we already have, let's cascade it, let's do what it is. Let's set up the mental health council. Let's put the right people there that are supposed to be there. Let's talk about it. Let's stop doing stakeholders meeting and not doing anything. We need more trauma-informed counseling. We need psychological first aid when things like this happen. We need a mental health act that is now a law for it to work, for us to walk the talk, not just being in the library or in the incubator, the way it has been over the years. We need it to work. I need it to, and I'm speaking to government now, please. The rescue is a headline, recovery is a budget line. One gets applause, the other actually saves lives. So if I want to say something to the government right now, 1 minute, the truth is that today we are celebrating this freedom. Tomorrow we must invest in healing. Let us not become a nation that counts the rescued but forgets the recovery. Every survivor deserves more than freedom. They deserve the opportunity to heal, to flourish, and to reclaim their lives with dignity. Because survivor tells us that they make it out, but recovery tells us that as a society, let us show up for them. Once they did, the rescue was never the finish line. It was the starting point.
Very well said, Dr. May. I would like you, when we come back from the break, to speak about the response or the coping mechanism that Nigerians have, built over time in regards to kidnapping. Because as much as we're also, the survivors are suffering, Nigerians who are watching the news are also suffering. So let's talk about how Nigerians,
presenters,
journalists are suffering. So we'll talk about the coping when we come back from this break. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at psychosocial support for survivors of kidnapping in Nigeria. And we're joined by the celebrity shrink, Dr. Maimuna Kadri. Thank you very much for still being here with us. Now, before we went on the break, I did mention to you that we're traumatized. It's not just the kidnapped survivors, the victims deal with a lot of trauma, but another class of people that deal with this trauma as well are the well-meaning Nigerians, their relatives, their loved ones, even people not related to them, that every other day we're hearing news of kidnapping in the news. We're seeing stories of people being killed and broadcast in WhatsApp groups. So two categories of people. How can the everyday Nigerian protect themselves whilst thriving and living and working in a country where kidnapping has become the order of the day? And the other aspect, for those of us who cannot, we can't separate ourselves from the news because that's our job, how can journalists better protect themselves?
Very, very key question. And I must say, this is where, sometimes people even call me, Dr. May, how are you surviving all this? You do therapy and all that. How are you also coping? We have to also, the first thing is that we must be self-aware. There's things that are within our control and there are things that are not within our control. For journalists, now let me start with you people, because it's your job, it's day to day, whether you like it or not, you are going to be asked to talk about this and also. But when you are self-aware, you definitely know your triggers, your stressors, your strengths, your weaknesses. You know, okay, no, I'm going to go on air and talk about this, but I'm going to make sure I put my phone on DND. I'm going to log off on social media and do social media detox for the time being, maybe in an hour a day or 2 hours a day, or after 8 p.m. I'm going to switch off. You have to guard yourself. You have to protect your sanity, because the truth is, mental health, we all have it, but mental illnesses, we do not all have it. And 1 in 4 Nigerians, and that is 1 in 4 individuals all over the world, including Nigerians, we have a mental illness in their lifetime. So if you're already dealing with issues of trauma before in the past, you should know that they can re-traumatize you. This can be a trigger for you. So while you read the news and do what is needful, you also protect yourself. And the truth is that you may go further to even tell your management that at this point in time, I may not be able to take this bill X, Y, Z. Sometimes you can be excused. It's because some of us don't even know how to ask. So when you ask and say at this point and give reason, sometimes you never give reason. Say, look, for my mental, this may not work for me. But that fear of missing out, oh, I'm the one that's supposed to take this news, and I wasn't able, I didn't do it. Oh, it will dent my image, not image, what do I call it? Promotion or what I'm supposed. No. So know that and know when to go off. Know the right people to reach out to when you are dealing with issues. Yes, we have friends that can serve as safety net for us to talk and all that, but if not, go to a professional, And as for Nigerians, this is the same thing that goes to you, because when you know yourself and you know your traumas, and I take myself as an example, as a professional, news come to me when I need it, when I don't need it. People will come to my therapy table and tell me things that I don't even want to hear, but again, how do I manage? I leave that information there as I'm getting up from that seat. Whatever we talk here stays here, and I go home. My first non-professional therapist is my husband. Hold space for me. I've taught him how to hold space for me. How, when I'm talking, he holds that space. But I also have professional colleagues and there that when it's too much, I talk to them. So we have to guard ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. The world is not going to end just because there are issues of insecurity, kidnapping in Nigeria. But what are you doing in your space, in your own little corner, to protect yourself, to protect your sanity, to make sure you do not only survive but thrive and flourish?
I like what you said about protecting oneself. And in all of this, I believe those who need protection the most are the victims of this kidnapping. I saw a very disturbing video yesterday, which brings us to the question of protection. I mean, if individuals, we try to always say, common sense is common and adults will act in a rational way and you expect them to behave in certain ways. But when they cross these lines and nobody amongst them thinks what they're doing is wrong, who is there to protect these people? And I say this because yesterday I saw a video clip of journalists asking a young boy that was part of a young victim of the kidnapping to relive the moment their teacher was beheaded and killed, and I mean, who does that? It breaks all ethical standards of journalism, and even on a commonsensical and a human-to-human basis is wrong. But there was no one there to protect the boy. So how do we stop this sort of things from happening in the future?
I talk about media reporting cases responsibly. And it's this is really very emphasized when it comes to trauma, especially cases of suicide, death, and all that. Because survivors have survivor's guilt, and this is critical here. For a child, even the teachers, they live through these things. Now, 2 people died in this whole process, right? Even the young children, they carry unspoken guilt about being the ones who made it home. And maybe some other people didn't make it home and all that. For that child, number one, shouldn't have been aired. That child, even if they're going to talk about the child, it should be covered or backed or muffled the sound. That child shouldn't be asked in live camera, should relieve. Like, how do you do that? So the thing is that there's things that we need policies on. And those policies, we have beautiful policies, I must say. Let's not even go there. We're a work in progress, right? But policies should have consequences, rewards. If it's good, reward. If it's bad, they should have consequences. Because the thing is that this thing you just talked about now, it will repeat itself over and over again. People that are old enough to know that this is not what they should do, but they are still doing it for the clips, the likes, the shares, and all that. No, they should know that this is not an experimental guinea pig. This is a life. This is a life that you are traumatizing, and we know unresolved traumas make people bleed on people that didn't hurt them, because hurt people. So without support, it just changes life. So it is important that we create those spaces for them. Media, the government, the family members, loved ones, because the loved ones will never know. So when they say they're coming to interview that child, they say, okay, this is what is happening in the interview, let us be out there. So now we are saying it is not okay, it is not normal, it is not advised. Please stop, interviewing children when it comes to issues like this. Let's protect them. Let's make sure that they get the support that they need. Let's make sure that we create that safety net for them to be able to speak up, speak out, seek for help when an if they need them, and watch out for those signs and symptoms I talked about earlier, and give them the much needed help that they need. Apart from the medical, please, the therapies. They don't just say this child is playing, it's okay. That may be the way the child is expressing his or her own trauma. Sit down and talk to that child in a professional manner for therapy, and let the child speak, and let the adult speak. Give them the support they need.
Dr. May, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for highlighting this. I'm sure the authorities are watching, and even Nigerians. Every single Nigerian has a role to play, including us too in the media. We have major roles to play to help and aid all those who are victims of circumstances, especially that of kidnapping. Thanks for your time. We truly appreciate it. Thank you.
To have a blessed weekend and mindful one.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Let's move on now to our next story. The United States House of Representatives has passed a fiscal year 2027 spending bill that seeks to withhold all U.S. foreign assistance to Nigeria until the American government certifies that Nigeria is taking measurable steps to protect Christian communities from religious violence. The provision, backed by Republican lawmakers, argues that the Nigerian government has not done enough to safeguard vulnerable communities. The bill still requires approval by the U.S. Senate and President Donald Trump's signature before it can become law. Meanwhile, Nigeria has consistently rejected allegations of religious persecution, maintaining that insecurity affects people of all faiths. Let's just take ourselves to the United States and see this bill that is actually seeking its signature of the president.
Speaker, I rise in strong support for my amendment to increase the withholding threshold for assistance to Nigeria from 50% to 100%, while keeping in place benchmarks that demand Nigeria take effective steps to address the violence and persecution that continue to devastate the country. Nigeria has faced a horrific wave of violence that its corrupt government has failed to address. For years, and especially in recent months, Christians and other religious minorities in Nigeria have been subjected to violence and terrorism at the hands of extremists operating with impunity. Christian women and girls continue to be abducted, assaulted, tortured, and killed. Their churches are burned, and entire communities are erased. If the aid conditions included in the bill are important enough to withhold half of all the funding to the Nigerian government, then they are important enough to withhold all of the funding. The generosity of our taxpayers is a reflection of the American values we hold so firmly. Never should we allow their hard-earned tax dollars to be funneled to corrupt regimes that fail to uphold religious freedom, fail to adequately confront terrorism, and fail to protect the innocent from persecution. So why are we rewarding a government that fails to meet such a basic obligation? This amendment is simple. It does not remove the aid conditions in the bill, but only strengthens such conditions. But most importantly, it upholds a principle that all recipients of American taxpayer assistance should follow, that they must prove they are willing and able to respond to violence before receiving any funding. Simply put, meet the standard before receiving support. That is the accountability the American taxpayer deserves. Foreign aid should never be a reward for failure. So as our national debt is fast approaching $40 trillion, why on earth are we still allowing ourselves to go further into debt by rewarding corrupt foreign governments that tolerate terrorism within their borders? When churches are burned, women and girls are abducted, and terrorists operate with near impunity, that is not merely an internal disturbance, it is a direct assault on the freedoms our nation claims to defend, which our foreign assistance must reflect and uphold. This is not about punishing the Nigerian people. It is about demanding accountability for their government's complacency and ensuring that our foreign aid is leveraged to defend, reflect, and uphold American values. Even the underlying bill recognizes the Nigerian government's failure to meet the standard, yet it still allows for half of the funding to be released anyways. My amendment withholds all funds until they meet basic standards. Accountability can never be divided, nor should we allow anyone to exploit the generosity of the American taxpayer. I urge my colleagues to uphold accountability in our foreign aid spending and to vote for my event.
Well, a lot has been said concerning that. We do have our guests who's joining us, one who's followed very closely the conversations around Christian genocide and who has also spoken tough about it, public affairs analyst and, of course, a journalist. Professor Simeon joins us. We'll go on a quick break. And first off, thank you for joining us. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the amount purported that Nigeria has actually received and the statements made by the United States of America Congress. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. Our guest joins us as we look at this latest conversation surrounding the need for an amendment. The United States say they want to withhold 100% of U.S. aid to Nigeria until the Christian genocide, in quotes like they mentioned, is stopped. Public affairs analyst Professor Simeon joins us this morning. Let's start off first by getting your reactions to what was said. And what was said is that 100% will be withheld. What's your take?
Good morning, gentlemen of the press.
Good morning.
Well, if you look at what the man said, he said they should not reward failure. And that the bill is not introducing any new thing, but is strengthening what is already on ground. Because what's on ground is that they are withholding 50%, but they want to make it 100%. The law has not been fully consummated because they still need to go to the Senate. And if you look at the voice vote in the House of Reps, you will discover it was 217 over 209. They voted along party lines. So the Republican took the day with 217 as against 209. So at the end of the day, what they are saying is that until Nigeria becomes responsive to this Christian genocide, because it's still going on. It's still going on. One is not saying that Muslims are not being killed. See, as a researcher, statistically, if you have 70 to 75% coefficient, you can generalize because you feel the other 25% is infinitesimal. So you can generalize that there is genocide because you have up to 75% of the people being killed as Christians. So at the end of the day, I think that is a decision in the right direction. And the Nigerian government should look at what is being said. See, the world is a global village, so there's nothing to hide. It's not in those days that we are analog. Today, the world is digital. So whatever is happening here, Americans know. But I can equally tell you that if you look at it from the other paradigm, it is enlightened self-interest. Because he did say that America has 40,000 or $40 million in debt. And so they cannot be wasting their resources funding people that are not obeying their own laws. So at the end of the day, you'll discover that it's neither here nor there. But let's wait for the Senate to do their own voting, and then the president signs it to law. But exactly what he's saying is that once that is done and dusted, that law cannot change until the Secretary of State has told the nation that that situation has changed. That is what is on ground now as we talk.
There are about 75% of victims of terrorism in Nigeria are Christians. Could you shed more light on that and the source of your data? Because quite a number of people would disagree with you on that.
Yeah, naturally, people are entitled to their opinion, and their opinion does not change the fact.
But this is national television. We're not dealing on speculation and opinions. We're dealing with facts because millions are watching. So it's very important that we know the source of your data. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Please Google the killings in Nigeria, and that's if you are not averse with what is going on, if you have not been following the trend. Google the number of killings in Nigeria, where you have more than 50 people buried in one day. Even Benue and Plateau alone will give you the figures. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that it's even more than that. I'm not saying it's just 70, 75%. I'm saying it's more than that because we know the number of Muslims that have been killed as a result of these issues that are happening. Recall how it started. It started by land grabbing. And it started by these, what do you call them, cattle rearers, trying to grab land before it dovetailed to now killing the Christians and taking over their lands in Benue and Plateau and in other northern states. So please Google that. And by the time you Google that, you will agree with me that even what the percentage I'm quoting is smaller than the percentage of what is on ground.
How should the Nigerian, or how do you presuppose that the Nigerian government should respond to this information?
The only way they can respond is not by paying PR people to go to US and counter what they are saying. Because at the end of the day, like I said before, the world is a global village. So don't waste your funds going to America to campaign. Because if you go there, they will show you videos of what is still happening. The only way Nigeria should respond is for government to put its feet on the ground and say that these killings are one too many and perpetrators will be brought to book. See, I said it before, when judgment is not speedily executed, the heart of man is said to do evil. Because if these people, if the perpetrators are brought to book, others will now, say we will not go that route. But because they see that the level of impunity, the government does not say anything about it, they just tell you we'll bring perpetrators to book. And after that drama, nothing happens. So that's why you see them get emboldened. But by the time you now begin to take steps to calm down by getting the culprits and making sure that you don't come back to tell us stories that they have repented and you now want to recruit them in your army or recruit them in your forces, then they will have a rethink that Nigeria is becoming serious. But until then, I think the situation as it is what it should be.
Okay, can you also speak to the fact that we've seen a huge amount? Nigeria has received so much money as support coming from the United States. I mean, the figures, though, are not ascertained, but it's looking well beyond a huge, in terms of trillions, billions, you name them, as aid coming from the United States. Can we categorically say that these monies or funds has been used to actually stop what we're seeing now in insecurity? And should they hold or put a hold or stop to giving these aids? Do you think it will impact Nigeria's security architecture negatively?
It's going to impact the Nigerian security architecture negatively because right now, as we speak, you know that the security forces are complaining of lack of funds. So if any aid that has been supporting that move is stopped, it's going to affect the Nigerian security architecture. However, what we are saying is that the ones that were received in the past, what were they used for? You see, we have a situation where funds are being diverted to sources that you cannot imagine. So at the end of the day, Nigerians should look inward because there is what you can call global reception all over the world. So every country is trying to conserve its resource. But Nigerian resource is being wasted on frivolities. I can say that with every amount of seriousness because the way we are churning out funds for political moves is not what it should be at the end of the day. We have serious challenges here. We have serious challenges that the government should look into. The other day, I saw the figures. You can go and check the figures that was diverted for COVID-19 for social register, to verify social register. It's coming in billions of naira that you are going to just verify a register. Come on, what kind of country is this? Just to verify a register, you are spending more than 3 billion. Man, we need to get serious. We are not serious. We are not serious as we speak. We are not serious. Honestly, okay. Nigeria is not a serious country.
All right. Well, let's wait to see if they'll respond.
Just before we let you go, Prof, one last question from my end. Looking at the country in concern that is speaking about this, the United States of America, don't you think they're being hypocritical? Because the United States of America is currently holding the Cuban people to ransom with the longest blockade in modern history, which has led to deaths of people. Just yesterday, the United States of America bombed civilian bridges leading from Bandar Abbas to Shiraz. 2 days ago, they bombed a child cancer hospital in Iran. And this same United States is telling you to respect freedoms and doing all of this. Is it not double standards and hypocrisy for them to delve into the internal affairs of other countries? No one is telling them how to run their country. So what's your take?
If you look at me, I've been laughing because I've said it on this particular channel and on this particular program that America is the most selfish country of the world. And they are the international police of the world because nobody asks them questions, so they do whatever they like. If you look at even previous administration, not this Trump administration, the previous American administration, I can tell you succinctly that they were sponsoring terrorism in some countries. They were sponsoring them. So, but at the end of the day, two wrongs does not make a right. Yes, they've gotten wrong that area, but they want to get it right here. Remember the word I used before, that's enlightened self-interest. That's America for you. They don't go to a place where they will not benefit something. So there are things they want to get in some of these countries. And that's why you see them at times go all out. It's not because they love that country much, more than themselves, but rather, at the end of the day, what is in there for them, that's the American language. What is in there for them? So they are going out there for what is in there for them at the end of the day, because nothing goes for nothing. In America, it is believed that there is no free lunch in free town. So whatever they are giving to you, they must benefit from it. That's a fact. Well, you can look at it from any perspective, but the truth is that America will put their mouth where their money is.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing your thoughts on this recent update. We look forward to see you again. Thank you.
You'll have a lovely weekend.
You as well.
You too. And talking about the weekend, we can confirm to you, Nigerians, that while the Minister of Works, Engineer Honorable Dave Umahi, was addressing Nigerians concerning the issue of the late physiotherapist, he also used the media an opportunity to mention to you Nigerians that the popular, and you could add controversial, Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road or Highway has been renamed. So it will no longer be called Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. Rather, it will now be called President Bola Ahmed Tinubu Coastal Highway. That's what.
And is there any reason for that?
I don't know.
Or maybe the idea was conceived in his administration.
Let me read out something for you.
The actualization of that road started, so he feels it's befitting. Let
me see. Let me read it. According to a report by the Daily Post newspaper, I'm going to quote what it was said. The minister said, he said, by the power conferred on me as the Honorable Minister of Works and in consultation with the Permanent Secretary, the Minister of State, the directors, and in the entire staff of the ministry, we have decided to name the entire Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is a dream that Mr. President had about 27 years ago, he said. The highway is estimated to cost 15 trillion naira upon completion. The road, which is one of the Tinubu government legacy projects with a section near completion, of course, we know that this road has been with a lot of controversy. So he named it after the president because it's long been a dream of Mr. President. So are you pleased with that?
Wow, such a direct question. Who am I to comment on such issues of national importance?
Yeah.
in the global scale of things, what does my response add to anything?
In addition to that, while we're talking about construction, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also approved for Lagos Ibadan Expressway to be reconstructed with concrete, concrete.
I feel sorry for people on that axis. And there are also projects in different parts of the country. There are roads that are in a terrible state that are begging for attention. So it will be I think priority would be to pay attention to those roads. Lagos Ibadan is already in a fantastic state. I have friends that apply week in, week out. So the entire process of digging and removing the asphalt and putting concrete on it is going to cause a lot of discomfort and traffic gridlock for people on that axis. It's unnecessary. And the naming, you don't name things after yourself. You let posterity judge. And there's certain, the M1 is called the M1. It's been called the M1 for a long time. The Autobahn. These are roads. You can name, these are major roads. You can name other things. And many other things have been named after President Bola Ahmed.
They've changed schools.
It smacks of sycophancy.
Hospital in the north.
So why do you name it after him? What's his source? He didn't use his personal funds. Again, if you're going to even scrutinize and x-ray this process, it's not like it was done in the most transparent and global best practice manner. We've not seen the bill of quantities, the environmental impact assessment. There was no open bidding process.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. The bidding was
things like that.
That was a huge controversy.
Name it. So then you consult your within. This is what they call. Even inside your AVR, another AVR day inside. So, inside your ministry, you consult your you expect your permanent secretary to say no. No, guy, you can't do this.
To be honest, I wouldn't typically have an issue with the renaming of the roads. But right now, the coastal highway is still in the thick of controversy. Lagos is experiencing so much flooding, and a number of Nigerians have blamed the coastal highway because they believe that the floods this year have been worse than they typically are. So they've blamed the coastal way for moving the floods down to the rest of those who are living along that axis, that corridor. So in the thick of this, then renaming, maybe my issue is with the timing as much as it is.
No, it's a geographical major, this is a mega project.
I agree.
And there's a reason why it's called Lagos Calabar. It's a coastal, it leads to, I don't think these are some of the different states. These are not infrastructure projects you name after individuals. Like saying Lagos Ibadan, let's name it Johansson Lagos Ibadan Expressway, or Oliver Modi Ogwashuku Port Harcourt Expressway. Things like that. It doesn't, just leave it as Lagos Calabar, please.
Yeah, so our focus should be fixing the roads. It's beyond giving it a beautiful name or whatever name. Fix the roads. That's the most important thing that we're thinking about. All right, we're going on a very quick break, and when we come back, it'll be time for breakfast headlines. Please stay with us. Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines within Breakfast Central. Let's now get into the conversation this morning. We begin with good news. 4 people abducted during an attack on an unauthorized examination center in Olowa, Dekina local government area of Kogi State have regained their freedom following a coordinated security operation. The Kogi State government says the rescue followed directive by Governor Usman Ododo, who ordered an immediate joint mission involving the Nigerian Army, the Department of State Services, the police, and local vigilante groups. Authorities say sustained pressure forced the kidnappers to abandon the victims and flee. Those rescued include a school principal, a NECO official, and 2 students who are receiving medical checks and security debriefing. Meanwhile, anger and frustration were evidently visible in Otukpo local government area of Benue State as residents affected by the recent attacks have rejected relief materials and cash donations from the state government. Some of the residents say that what they need is improved security, not compensation, adding that no amount of relief can replace the lives lost or reverse the destruction caused by the attacks.
Emotions ran high as Deputy Governor Sam Ode arrived in Otukpo on Monday, leading a delegation of senior government officials to sympathize with victims of the recent attacks.
I will challenge the security agencies The Commissioner of Police is here, the Army is here. We need to put a front operation base in this community.
The delegation included officials of the Benue State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. The Deputy Governor announced a donation of 5 million naira to the affected communities, while SEMA presented bags of rice as part of the state's relief efforts.
That for those who are wounded that are in the hospital, and for those that are to be buried immediately, I should make available the sum of 5 million.
The intervention was, however, rejected. Residents turned down the relief items and cash donation, insisting that the gesture did not reflect the scale of their losses. News Central captured the tense moment as residents confronted the delegation, asking them to tell Governor Hyacinth Alia that they were unhappy with the government's response. As tensions escalated, government officials hurried into their vehicles and drove away.
But the community members were not satisfied, and they vehemently rejected the money and told the deputy governor to return to the governor and tell him that they are angry and that they are not taking anything from the government until the government addresses the issue of insecurity in the area.
The recent attacks have left at least 8 people dead, several others injured, and 5 residents still missing. Residents say what they need most is not relief but security. They also want a sustained security presence in the affected communities and renewed efforts to locate those still unaccounted for.
Let me assure the good people of this community and the entire people of Benue State that the Benue State Police Command and other security agencies will continue to protect, will continue to be committed in ensuring that the community here are protected.
Police authorities say efforts are ongoing to restore calm and strengthen security in the area. Residents, however, say they are yet to see the level of protection they believe the situation demands.
And they are coming to give us 5,000 naira for the hospital treatment, for the burial, and also for what are we going to do with the 5,000, with the 5 million naira, 6 million naira? So that money is not enough. We will dig ground and bury our people.
The people that we lost is more than that 5 million naira. So we rejected the money with them. Let them go with the money. But our crying to the federal government, if the federal government can assist the communities, help us and drive the Fulani men away from our land. We are farming people. We are not really cattle. That is what we are crying for.
The rejection of the relief has exposed the growing frustration among affected communities, where many say lasting security has become more urgent than emergency assistance. In Benue, for News Central, Sewuisi Anyo.
The Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has reaffirmed the commitment of the Nigeria Police Force to improving the welfare of the police personnel and their families, saying that officers perform better when their families are adequately supported. Speaking at the 2026 Police Officers' Wives Association Annual General Convention in Abuja, Disu stressed that healthcare, education, skills acquisition and women's empowerment remain key priorities in strengthening the welfare of the police community. Representing the wife of the President, Oluremi Tinubu, the wife of the Minister of Defense, Lilian Musa, urged police officers' wives to prioritize their physical and mental well-being while continuing to support their spouses.
We recognize that the effectiveness of any police organization depends not only on operational capabilities, but also on the strength and well-being of the families that stand behind its officers. We shall therefore continue to support initiatives that promote family welfare, education, healthcare, skills acquisition, women's empowerment, and social development, working with power in pursuit of these objectives.
As wives of police officers, you carry many responsibilities at home while supporting your husband, whose duty often keep them away from their families. Your patience, your sacrifice, encouragement, and support provide the stability that allows them to serve our nation. Yet your health and mental well-being should be addressed also.
Resilience should never mean suffering in silence, but resilience should never mean suffering in silence. That is why this convention has been carefully designed, not merely as a gathering, but as an investment in every woman here.
The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Richard Montgomery, has met with officials of Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, discussing on several key issues relating to election security and transparency, migration, and broader bilateral relations. Montgomery and INEC reaffirmed their commitment to supporting democratic governance and credible elections in the country. Also, the chairman of INEC, Professor Joash Amopiton, assured the British delegation of the Commission's commitment to remain focused while strengthening institutional capacity required to deliver transparent, inclusive, and credible elections. And now let's move outside Nigeria, where the Algerian Prime Minister and senior government officials have joined grieving families at the funeral of victims killed in a devastating orphanage fire in Baraki on the southeastern outskirts of Algiers. Earlier, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune expressed deep sorrow following the fire at an orphanage near Algiers that killed at least 11 people, most of them children. The overnight blaze also left 19 others injured, according to emergency responders who battled the flames and rescued survivors. Authorities have launched an investigation into the cause of the fire as Algeria mourns one of its deadliest orphanage tragedies in recent years. The World Health Organization has raised fresh concerns over the rapid spread of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo, warning that the outbreak is advancing faster than any previous epidemic of the deadly virus. The WHO says more than 2,000 Ebola cases, including 796 deaths, have been confirmed since the outbreak was declared just 2 months ago, making it the third largest Ebola outbreak ever recorded. WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus says the virus is spreading at an alarming rate, with intense transmission reported across affected communities in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And that's all we have at this hour. We will now continue with Breakfast Central as we bring you the newspaper reviews. Please stay with us. I am Olive Emodi.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Time for us to go straight to the front pages of the newspapers. And need I mention that we do have our front page analyst here with us. Of course, is journalist of international repute, Mr. Habib Aruna, joins us this morning. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Habib Aruna.
Good morning, sir.
Great to see you.
Happy birthday, sir.
Morning. All right, let's go straight. But first, we must mention. We must mention that you can drop a comment or two by simply calling in. So feel free to call the number you'd find there on the screen. And definitely would like to hear your voice reacting to some of the big stories that we have on the front page.
But it's my YouTube audience a joke to you.
We'll get to YouTube.
No, mention them, please, especially that they should go and drop comments.
I mean, we have a lot of
You said
comments.
they should call. You did not tell them that they can also drop comments on YouTube. Help me.
Well, yes, they always drop comments. But let's go straight to our first paper because time is not our friend. We have predictions. We have photo of the week to also look into.
Yes.
So let's run. First paper. This one says, INEC back to square one as appeal court restores old timetable. Says powers granted to INEC under sections 29, 82, and 84, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act do not extend to determining timelines for party primaries. Oh, wow.
Also, this rigmarolling and back and forth.
And then INEC still says we need more money. So more money, the money you collected, Mr. Bibaruna, please feel free to delve in. We've been talking since.
Is it INEC's fault?
You see, you cannot blame INEC for these things.
Why?
Because our politicians are very inconsistent, demonic. I'm very pragmatic. We like to play game with everything. An unknown party wake up one day and took INEC to court. That they were not taken into consideration when it was setting up the timetable. And the consequential political party for that matter. They went to court. And unfortunately, the Federal High Court in Abuja gave them a leave. Stop INEC. In other words, INEC now appeal. The appeal court judgment came up yesterday. And the three justices came up with a judgment that no. That party
unanimous decision.
Unanimous decision that the said party do not have that jurisdiction, do not have that, how do I even call it, that the court do not have the jurisdiction, or that doesn't affect that party decisions of INEC, and that INEC should go ahead with the original plan, of conducting an election on the set date. That's what is going on, That's why I said some of these guys are demonic. Don't take us back. Let us work towards a fair, transparent, and credible elections. That is what I think is going on now. And I don't think they will appeal. I think the appeal court judgment is very clear, and very comprehensive. That INEC has the power to fix elections and also make sure that parties conformed.
What's the implication of this judgment now?
Pardon?
The implication of this judgment on the timetable?
No, it does not. It still subsists.
Okay.
Yes, it subsists. The only thing is that I don't know where Johansson is. He's talking about they don't have enough fund.
So the thing is, while all of this is going on, this is my take. INEC and its boss, Professor George Amupiton, they've planned the 2027 elections using the budget and the timetable. So you cannot plan an election, roll out a timetable, put money on each activity. I mean, if you're looking at the sheet, the cost sheet, and now the court says, no, Oga, go back to status quo, go back to the original timetable. You can't just change. In other words, wouldn't that impact on the budget? Because you've extended it. Remember that initially, it wasn't supposed to be January 16. There were calls that the Muslims will be having their holiday, so INEC decided to move it. So moving it, in other words, will cost you something because materials, you have to now extend, whatever you need to do. Now when they're saying go back, and then you're saying you need more money, back and forth, it seems like we're just...
I think INEC should come out and address Nigeria and let us know what is going on. Because yesterday, we had about 6 months to go for the presidential election. As of yesterday, that's 6 months to go. So INEC should come and tell Nigeria what is going on and if they are ready for the all important next election, the next year.
Okay, let's still look at the front pages of the papers and see what's happening. Good news, let's start with some good news, still on the front page of Al Jazeera. Security forces rescue abducted Kogi school principal, NECO official, and students. I think that's great news. Let's have you.
Yes. If you look at the papers today, it's about insecurity.
One.
It's about next election, next time elections. It's about the Habila story. The raging story.
Yes, physiotherapy.
So I think
they said the gate has gone down.
It's a very good development. Very good development. I think look at the way they also rescued the kidnapped headmaster principal in Oyo State.
Yeah.
A few days ago. I think our security forces are becoming very, very active. And
let's get your thoughts on this recent one as well, and a video we just saw during the news, how residents in Otukpo are giving for 5,000 naira for those who have died as a result of terrorism. They were giving for 5,000. Our director will get that package ready. I've requested that we look at that package and highlight it. It's a menace, and we need to talk about it. But we have a caller who's calling us all the way from Ogun State. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Wow.
I had one network on TV this morning that INEC and one court of appeal have ruled again that INEC cannot do anything for that High Court appeal, Federal High Court, Abuja, that INEC cannot do Court of appeal that have ruled against Federal High Court. That another Court of appeal again now ruled that Federal High Court is right, that Court of appeal that are ruled is wrong. So I completely judge the land. Another Court of appeal have ruled that what Federal Court of appeal are ruled is wrong. Another Court of appeal are ruled that this Court of appeal, the Federal High Court.
You don't sound clear. We can't hear you. Your voice sounds very, very low.
I think I understand. You're too close to the mouthpiece.
Yeah, if you can maybe move it back a bit.
Just move back a bit from the mouthpiece because you have a loud voice. So
what I'm saying is that Court of appeal, another Court of appeal have ruled that Federal High Court is right for banning for saying that the timetable for the INEC is wrong. That another Court of appeal has ruled against Court of appeal again. Because what I said, another Court of appeal has ruled against the Court of appeal that has ruled against Federal High Court. Go and say that continue judgment now. Go and say.
Update. He said the Court of Appeal has ruled that INEC cannot have changes to the election date. He's saying that the Federal High Court again has also appealed against that one, the judgment, and so on.
So I think that's what I said. It's very important for INEC to come out and tell Nigerians
what is the
state of things, what is going on. Are they ready for the elections? Is there any problem with the conflicting judgment we're hearing, and how will it affect the next election? It's very important for them to come out and tell Nigerians. Because we are all looking forward to next elections.
Okay.
So I was talking about that.
Yes, please, go ahead.
And I think it's a good development that our security forces, operatives and agencies are becoming increasingly proactive in dealing with these things. I think it's important. There will only be criminals. That's why we have security agencies, security operatives to deal with them and for them to face the consequence of their actions. So it's commendable.
Very interesting. Let's still look at the paper there and take one more story before we move to the next paper. There's a new act. There's a review amendment, I beg your pardon. FRSC Act Amendment. Senate raises traffic offense fines by 300%. We're also told that the FRS have been told to leave the roads, federal roads. That's another thing we're being told.
But they are Federal Road Safety Corps. Where do you expect
I really don't
inside my
understand.
street?
They said there's conflict. I think we need to look at that story deep, but since we don't have the details.
So it's a good development. There are many things that came out yesterday in the social media. Particularly the issue of banning people who trace inside the buses.
And preach.
And people who preach, who trace, inside the I think it's a good development.
After the preaching, they also collect offering. They don't force it. They say if anything your mind gives you.
When they start their preachings or they want to trade, you just, what is this guy talking about? But after 5 minutes, bros, you be convinced to buy. Many times
you've been a victim.
No, not victim. What they are selling is not fake. It's not fake. They convince you. They are very smart.
Madam, if you use this cream,
So they have their own
headache.
So you don't. So are you saying that you don't have agency?
You see, but you see what is very important to me.
No, people need protection.
Which I think the state government should also replicate, is traffic offences. As I was coming to this place, to this your studio, I realized, which is often the case, that Kekena Pep
and Danfo,
Okada, and they don't obey traffic rules and regulations.
They belong to another jurisdiction.
I don't understand. These are
on my way to work, 3 buses jumped the red light.
They don't give it
and nothing happens. And guess what? Nothing will happen.
And it appears our traffic
wardens, they don't care.
They are helpless.
Yes.
They cannot deal with them.
It's hardly to enforce.
Mr. Babe.
They can't leave that.
It's because we don't have something.
Let's pause. We have a call. We have a call. Let's take this call. I believe it's Frank. Good morning, Frank. Thank you very much for calling. Okay. Frank, are you there with us?
Okay. Well, Frank is not here. I just want to read through very quickly. The Senate has passed the Federal Road Safety Corps Amendment Bill 2026, proposing sweeping changes to Nigeria's road traffic laws, including a 50,000 naira fine for anyone convicted of hawking. I'm reading the story, trading or preaching inside commercial vehicles. The bill now awaits presidential assent, also introduces significantly stiffer penalties for offenses such as drunk driving, reckless driving, speeding, traffic light violations, and refusal to cooperate with FRSC officials during roadside breath tests. I was waiting to see the one that they said they shouldn't be in certain roads and so on, but it's
do we have the...
They have breathalyzers.
Do we have the database? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the officials? Do we have the... no officials to enforce these things.
You see,
that is my problem.
I know you mentioned earlier on that we've seen. I see it every day. Let's not sugarcoat. We see it every day where there's a traffic light. You wait. You see these Danfo drivers pass. The FRSC official is there, and I don't care. I cannot wait until I have the proof, and then we show it on television very soon. These guys are also, whether we like it or not, and I stand to be corrected. They are also beneficiaries of what these drivers hand over to them.
Of course,
you see them come by the side, they give them something and say, take. They go to meet them, so they say, how far?
Find it difficult to now control them and enforce the rules.
Corrupted the entire process.
You see, when you travel abroad and see all these things, you'll be wondering if we live in the same planet. Because if you disobey traffic light in the Western world,
you're finished.
You will not drive for the next 3 years.
I mean, you even...
Because the idea is that we are not fit to drive. People are not safe because of your carelessness and stupidity.
Yes.
So why can't we enforce it?
It's a health safety issue.
Yes. Because before now, we have highway patrol that control traffic on our highways. Now when you are traveling, all these trailers, they are always on the fast lane.
Yes.
Who's controlling them?
Thank you.
On the fast lane. Then in Lagos, particularly in Lagos, I think I have the opportunity of discussing with these political candidates, particularly Amzat. What is he going to do about enforcement?
Which is a major
problem. This guy park anyway. We now have, if you are going up at night, you have a part of the road to use. They block everywhere, their market and their buses. What are we doing about it? So these things should be extended to the states.
The one I was expecting...
Because it's unfortunate.
They've proposed, I was thinking that the bill will also include the so-called street urchins, the area boys.
It's very important.
I was expecting that because the question I always ask, and I want to ask on national TV this morning, and I'd like Nigerians to think deeply about it, is all the monies that are being collected from these buses. Business Day did a report, and it showed how many billions has been made over a period of time from collection of what they call maybe illegal or taxes.
Absolutely.
Where do these monies go to? Because roads are bad. If the monies that are collected from bus drivers, Keke Napep, Okada, name them, are being used, are funneled back to the government coffer, it can now be said, okay, we've made XYZ amount from taxing bus drivers. Therefore, we have allocated XYZ% to fix the road. The government will not need to borrow from the international community because you are taking from the people. But why is it that you are now taking, the roads are bad, and what is going on?
So, Lagos is trying, but it appears that what they are doing is not good.
It's not enough.
Yeah, it's not enough. They should do more to enforce the traffic rules and regulations.
Anyway, let's move to our next paper. Yeah. Olive, you want to...
Yeah, let's move to our next paper.
Nigerian Tribune.
Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, excuse me, We can see the big story on the front page.
It says appeal court validates INEC timetable on 2027 elections, strikes down portions of Electoral Act as unconstitutional. And that's exactly what we see. Yeah, the INEC doesn't have the power to say, listen, this is what we're going to do. Okay, 210 trillion missing funds claim falls. Balawunti tells Senate, says no money went missing under my stewardship. Really? Okay, that's from the NNPCL, the 210 trillion naira. Foreign reserves now $52 billion CBN governor. 2 killed, several injured in Oshogbo shooting as police launch investigation. Troops raid criminals' hideout in Ekpe, arrest 24 foreign nationals. New bill proposes 100,000 naira fine for traffic offences.
How much is minimum? I mean,
I agree.
These fines are exorbitant. People can't pay them.
So I think they should also make it in a way that you can contest the fines.
Yeah, of course, that will be there.
You can contest the fines. However, I think what I would love to see as a Nigerian is that no Nigerian is more what's that word? Should be treated differently from any other Nigerian. So those who are running the lights, including the government officials, with
the law should treat all citizens equally.
They need to also pay the fine.
Let them also put road signs.
There's a story you mentioned.
Road signs, markings, and the roads should be standard.
The story on NNPC.
Yes.
And with Oshiomhole in this instance.
Exactly.
That kind of money is too much to be toyed with. 210 trillion naira. NNPC, well, nobody is saying the money is missing, but let us know what is really going on. You know, NNPC is not coming out clean. And unfortunately, the Senate leadership, led by Akpabio, is not helping matters. They said trying to ostracize Oshiomhole from insisting on the fact that they should tell Nigeria what is going on. So there should be an audit. A private firm, an independent firm, yet to audit the account of NNPC. Let us know if it's true that that kind of money is missing from the government coffers. Very, very important.
I agree.
It should not just be swept under the carpet. No. And the NNPC and the head of the NNPC, former NNPC MD, that is now abroad, should be summoned back to come and tell Nigerians what happened. That is the job of the legislature. The legislature is supposed to be in charge of the purse.
But we thought
but when you are not colluding and supporting the looting of our Commonwealth, we have to raise questions. And that's what the media is doing. That's why the media is putting it on the front burner. And Oshiomhole is saying that let us know the truth. What is going on? How this money? Where is this money? Let there be a thorough audit with the transaction of NNPC in the past 15 or 20 years. You know.
But we thought Ojulari, once he comes in, he was going to, change things, try to separate himself from all of this by asking for proof from his previous head.
So they should not cover it up. That's what I'm saying implicitly, moves by the Senate leadership to cover this thing up. We will not accept it. It should not be covered up.
Okay, let's still take some other ones, still on the same front page of the paper. Beyond the headline.
They've sued Prince.
Okay, yes, we should probably take that. PFIPC, Mary Habila sues Aide for 15 billion naira over alleged defamation. 15 billion.
The story is still there. The man hired about 5 SAMs or 4.
Baja.
Habila. He's the one putting the issue on his phone now. So let's know what is going on. Let it operate in the open court.
But what do you make of arresting him that way, the way they arrested him?
Very wrong. Very wrong. You see, this man is not guilty. Let the court pronounce him guilty. What he revealed, the revelations in this saga, means that something is wrong with our government. The way our government operates. So that should be moved by both the National Assembly and the presidency to clean up the mess that this man has raised. Just arresting him and silencing him will not help matters. It will raise other issues surrounding the whole matter. So if we are not suing him, the man said he's ready to go to court. He said he was ready to face those things. So let the game is on. Let him be tried in the open court for us to see.
Okay, I will take the next paper short. I'll run through the headlines of this and then we'll move to the next paper shortly. But I want to take some comments on YouTube. Osas says, can you also put it in law to prevent people from blocking out roads, doing prayers and causing terrible traffic? It seems like it's Christianity that they would act on. It's only Christians that preach in buses. Well, I blame the Christian Association for not speaking. Let's have your thoughts on that. Then I'll go to the next ones.
Well, if you're constituting, your freedom stops where it infringes on another person. So if you're inconveniencing a person, either as a Muslim playing on the road during Friday prayers, or you're
So that means if they are banning the preaching in bus, then they're going to also extend that to those who pray on the road. Okay. All right, we have a call from Kogi State. I'll come back to take more comments on YouTube. But you can keep your comments coming. We're streaming live on News Central TV Live. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling us this morning. Okay, we lost our call from Kogi State. Okay, I'll still take a few more comments. I use Kudirat Abiola way to work. Once you get to Oregon and the traffic light before it, the Keke and Korokwe guys always jump the red light. They don't wait at all. Mokunye Chukwemeka says.
I think
he says the money collected from the transporters don't go to any government agency. Maybe just a small amount. But they have the chairman collecting the money for their personal use. NPO report says, but why did Oshomole sound like he's developing cold feet? We'll take a few more comments. Keep them coming.
Senator Akpabio did make a comment about, are you not the one that they were massaging
your leg inside the private jet?
Okay.
So the nation's Commonwealth has now turned to comedy half hour.
Yes. Interesting. I must take this one from Olumide Alade, then we'll go on a break. They said the Coastal Highway is a national interstate project, not a city road meant to honor individuals. While other countries celebrate advances in technology, healthcare, and infrastructure, Nigeria celebrates the release of kidnapped victims. May God grant our leaders the wisdom to focus on what truly matters. And then a question being asked by Osas, it says, you people didn't talk about Umahi again. Well, the papers carried it, so we will talk about it. We did talk about it. Our first conversation, we had a lawyer come to talk about the legal, moral, ethical perspective to the conversation. But then the paper still carried, so we'll touch on it again when we come back from this break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We still have the comments coming on YouTube. Keep them coming, we'll take them. I will take phone calls, and we still have some papers to look at. But we'll now quickly connect with our correspondent, Manab Balabobo, who brings us updates from Kogi State regarding the principal, the NECO officials, and the students that were rescued. Thank you for being with us this morning, Mana. What updates do you have for us regarding this story?
Good morning to you, Olive. And I mean, we're just in the community right now, just in front of the palace of the local chief of the community, who has confirmed to us that they have heard from the rescued victims, talking about the principal, the NECO official, and the other two students who were writing the NECO examinations, which corroborates the report in the press release by the State Commissioner for Information, Kingsley, yesterday, which was made public at about 9 p.m. Yesterday, and we broke the news live on tonight with First Felicity. But let me just cut to the chase. The local chief is here with us. Thank you so much for speaking with us. What is your reaction to the news of the rescue of these victims as a result of them writing exams on Tuesday?
Actually, I'm very much happy. I'm overwhelmed with joy because it was an ugly situation in our land, Olowa, as a whole, on the 14th of July, 2026. But I want to thank God for the state government for their quick response to the incidents. I think the end result is awesome. I want to thank God that all the victims have been rescued. And right away, I am trusting God, or I believe they are under the state government to take care of them now. So that is what I have to say.
All right, let's speak to the father of one of those who was rescued. Of course, as you can see, he's smiling. Sir, can you tell us your reaction, knowing fully well that your daughter will be reunited with you and your family shortly?
Yes, sir. I am the father, your father, present now. But as you currently write the exam, now there the son. So now, I come here say they don't need the son. We never see. Now, Even me, I will be confused. If I don't know what the ground, never come. Maybe it's still their hand or a day with the government to know.
But all you hear say they don't rescue
Yes,
them.
they don't.
All right. So what he's trying to say, Olive, is that he's aware that they've been rescued, but he has not seen the lady, that is Dorcas, but he is hopeful that he will get to hear from them. Earlier on, just to give you an update, we got a memo that the governor, Governor Usman Ododo, is going to be meeting with the rescued victims at about 10 a.m. Later today. So we will rush down to Lokoja because we are still in Olowa community here in Dekina local government area to bring in more updates and get to see the rescued victims. And of course, we'll continue to monitor the story and file in all our reports.
All right, we look
Back
forward
to
to
you.
seeing the filed reports. Thank you very much, Managbala Bubu. We'll reconnect with you again. We'll now come back into the studio to continue with the newspaper reviews and bring you the update on the top left corner of the Nigerian Tribune. Court orders final forfeiture of 8.94 billion naira assets and 11 luxury cars, cash linked to Aisha Achimugu. Recall when her story became a very public information with the celebration of birthday outside the shores of Nigeria and, you know, all the eyebrows that were raised as a result. But let's get your thoughts about this.
It's a very interesting development, you know, a story coming in the wake of a feature of 43 buildings or parties belonging to former Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, SAN. So it's unfortunate that people use government office as an avenue to embezzle public funds. And the one of Aisha Achimugu is more mind-boggling because she has been friends to many people, corridor of power, and it's very likely that she was unable to prove the ownership of these things. That was why the court started to enforce the forfeiture, you know. Look at the amount of money involved. Look at the amount of, look at 11 vehicles. So it's not something that is palatable to all of us. No. There are many things that is still going on that were not forfeited in the court. That is in the public space. So it's just unfortunate that, but I think more something like this is what Nigeria want to see. You know, if you do something wrong, you face the consequence. You know, to me.
Okay, let's...
Beyond the forfeitures, can you explain how it works? After seizing some of these properties, does it mean the people are allowed to go and sin no more? Or there's still more?
They're not supposed to be in prison or something? Or in...
Yeah.
No, I think there is something like a pre-bargaining.
Pre-bargaining.
Behind the curtain. Now, if you give everything out, you're not go to prison. All you can tell more of that. Only with a lawyer. It's a barrister. So it's a pre-bargaining something that if you forfeit part of your loot, you know, you can go home and see no more.
Okay, let's quickly, because we are out of time, and we need to show you our photo of the week.
Yes.
Let's quickly share that with you, and then we'll take a few more comments before we call it a wrap. And if our producers can please do us the honor of sharing the photo of the week.
It's a lot. It's a lot. A lot has happened this week, from the Oyo incidents to photo of the week.
This is the Ebonyi State governor.
Yes. But it's not about
why.
It's what happened right there in Ebonyi State as well. That's another thing that we're going to take, most importantly. If you recall, Ebonyi State has equally been hit with a back and forth on the political land space regarding the fight for APC seats. There were statements that oh, there's APC fighting against the FCT minister and so on and so forth. But it has to do with a school in Ebonyi State. Not school, a health center. Unfortunately, I don't think our producers have that photo ready. It's a health center in Ebonyi State. That image did come out, and it became a shame to mention. Unfortunately, I think we're having challenges putting that image right there.
The state we are a so-called nurse, or is it a therapist?
No, this is Ebonyi.
But in the state,
yeah, but that was
that same state that the so-called nurse stroke physiotherapist died in the residence, the compound of the Minister of Works, you know. And the Minister of Works is going around as if nothing happened. A life was lost in the house of a serving minister.
Yeah, it's come out in a press
And
conference.
the minister did not say a word, or the police, 2 weeks after this lady died. He took the boldness, audacity of Sahara reporters for the story to be leaked. But then the minister now reacted through his aides. The police now started investigating. No, I think it's the whole thing is a big mess, and it's a stain on our institutions, you know. So I think by now, the minister should be made to step aside, where the IG conduct a thorough investigation, not about the state government or about the state police. Because Umahi has a lot of influence in the state, and we cannot rely on that for a thorough investigation and justice to be served. So IG should take over the case. Forensic experts should be involved, and let us know what happened to the death, to this woman that died untimely, you know, untimely.
In what many have termed a
Yes, so it's not, nobody is saying Umahi is guilty, you know, but it's all shrouded in secrecy. That we left many questions unanswered.
Well, he said they shouldn't pay politics.
Nigeria, if you look at the social media, people are demanding that. Yeah, this man is public official. He's a minister he's a very prominent minister. Cabinet of President Bola Tinubu. So he should be made to face the panel and clear himself.
All right.
Very important.
We have to get out of the studio, but I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has engaged with us on YouTube, to every guest who's joined us virtually and in studio. And I'm wrapping up by giving a shout out to my friend Nkiru Oko, two-time author, lawyer extraordinaire, wishing you an incredible celebration, and thank you for being a wonderful friend and sister to me. For the rest of our audience, have a great weekend. See you on Monday. Au revoir. Odabo. Kachifo. How do you say it now, sir?